Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Let's see how much we can get into our last segment. So Fort Collins, Colorado, Congresswoman Betsy Markey admits publicly that there will be massive Medicare cuts, sacrifices. The looting of Medicare is the heart and soul of the Obama plan. So now it's time to mobilize. Get out there saying, defend Medicare against Obama. The way you do that is with the Tobin tax. A 1% Tobin tax on Wall Street speculators can fund all of this. It can produce between $10 and $20 trillion a year, at least initially, until speculation goes out of style. $10 to $20 trillion a year for the states, for the budget crisis. We've got it going in California, in virtually every state. There are massive killer cuts coming down. Obama's not lifting a finger. He's shoveling more trillions to Wall Street. So it's time to mobilize. Don't let those right-wing loudmouths hog all the attention. Get out there and say, we want to defend Medicare. And indeed, that's this, the woman who said, get your hands off my Medicare, knows very well that it's a government program. What she's saying is, Obama, you Wall Street puppet, get your hands off my rights recognized under the New Deal. And again, I think that's a pretty clear moral and political dividing line. So that, I think, is the secret. If senior citizens turn massively against Obama, they're going to say, we demand Medicare with no cuts. And if the sacrifices, Wall Street makes the sacrifices with a 1% Tobin tax on their speculative financial turnover. A couple of international items. Internationally, China and India have jointly rejected, in a very emphatic way, the U.S. blackmail of those two countries and others on this carbon insanity. This entire global warming fraud reveals itself as a genocidal ploy by the Anglo-American ruling class, bankers, and others, joined by the usual bums from the European Central Bank, the Eurogocks and Eurocrats, and so forth. So with China and India saying, we reject any binding carbon limits that would strangle our economic development and perpetuate poverty in our countries, this Copenhagen conference in December is on track to be a complete fiasco. And it can't be complete enough to suit me. It's got to be an absolute failure and fiasco and debacle for these green fascists that are attempting to impose genocide worldwide under the cover of their touching concern for the polar bears. A related development in Europe, the fight against the Lisbon Treaty, that is to say, against, in the way I read it, against the oligarchical rule of the European Central Bank. There's an important demonstration on the 5th of September in Berlin. It's organized by Jürgen Elsässer. Jürgen Elsässer, very well-known writer, leading the Volksinitiative. It's Volksinitiative, Volksinitiative, if you will, .info. You can find out where and precisely when this important demonstration against the Lisbon Treaty on the 5th of September is going to happen in Berlin. There'll be somebody from Ireland. Ireland is the country that has already rejected the Lisbon Treaty once, and they may indeed reject it again with a second referendum, which will be held in October. We'll be following this story from week to week. Now, let's say a couple of words about Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy's career is mixed. Positive achievements, certainly that he always fought for the minimum wage. That's a positive. Again, economic rights for the people, some kind of connection to the New Deal tradition. Head Start, nutritious breakfast for poor children so they can learn. Great. WIC, women, infants, children, high-protein meals for expectant mothers and infants so they don't suffer brain damage, birth defects, and all the rest. Great. Meals on Wheels, hot food for senior citizens who can't get it themselves. Fine. S-CHIP, absolutely critical. Child health insurance program run through the states, should be more funded, should be more widespread, but a great thing. Family and Medical Leave Act, one of the few things that Clinton managed to do in the first term. If you're sick or you have to go to a funeral, you can't be fired. National military child care. daycare and some meals for the children of people who are in the armed forces. Great. AmeriCorps, find ways to make ghetto youth employable. Great. COBRA, you can at least get medical insurance when you lose your job. Problem with that is the prices are very, very high. Stopping Bork, great. Bork was a reactionary monster, a monster spewing Austrian, Chicago, and Buckleyite filth in all directions, a quasi-fascist. I mean, so reactionary, he was off the charts. So that was great. Opposing stupid Reagan and his free market Wall Street dictatorship, great. And voting against the Iraq War, Kennedy did that too. So that's all fine. Those are all good things. Then you get to the other side. HMOs have not been very good. Everything green that he was for, not good. Multiculturalism, not good. Airline deregulation, an absolute disaster. No child left behind. Too much with tests and not funded. And worst of all, the Obama endorsement that Ted Kennedy, in the decadence of his old age, was instrumental in throwing the election to Obama. If he had refused to endorse Obama, we'd be all better off today. But let's see, what is the thing, the one thing that we could imitate today? In 1979, Teddy Kennedy could see that Carter was an absolute disaster run by the Trilateral Commission, destroying the country, destroying the Democratic Party. So Teddy Kennedy launched a very successful, for a while, primary challenge against Carter. He challenged him from inside the party. He said, Carter, you're not a Democrat. You're a banker's boy. You're a puppet. Teddy Kennedy won 10 primaries. If it had not been for the baggage of Chappaquiddick, he probably could have taken the nomination away from Carter and perhaps defeated Reagan. That would have been much better for the United States than those 8 years, actually 12 years, of the Reagan-Bush reactionary nightmare, when the deficit was tripled. These people today at the Tea Parties who say, yeah, we're concerned about fiscal discipline. Cheney himself said, Reagan proved that deficits don't matter. Yeah, he did. He tripled the national debt. Tripled the national debt. Even Obama has terrible things. We now know that it's going to be a $10 trillion deficit, perhaps some, according to some, 11 trillion, 14 trillion over the next 10 years. But to triple the deficit in 8 years, the way that Reagan did, is unbelievable. Tax cuts for the rich, anyone? And it's also a family tradition. In 1968, what was the greatest thing that Bobby Kennedy ever did was that when he saw with the Eugene McCarthy very good showing in New Hampshire that Lyndon B. Johnson was extremely weak over Vietnam, Bobby Kennedy finally pulled himself together and came forward to challenge LBJ and essentially force him out, and then he would have gone on to defeat Hubert Humphrey if he had not been assassinated. So the good Kennedy family tradition is that when you've got a Democrat in the White House who's an absolute disaster, Carter in all ways, LBJ, a real tragedy because he had real progressive credentials and then threw it all away with the Vietnam War. The Kennedy tradition is when you've got a disastrous, catastrophic, abortive presidency, then you challenge them in the primaries, and that's what we need now. We've got to have a Democratic primary challenge to Obama. Now, let me recommend, go to my website, tarpley.net. We're going to be upgrading tarpley.net, but right now you can find all the books there. Tarpley.net, Obama the Postmodern Coup, Obama the Unauthorized Biography, Surviving the Cataclysm, 9/11 Synthetic Terror, the Bush Biography from 1992. You can get it for free. Just download it if you want to print it out yourself. If you want the printed book, that's available too through a link there. So tarpley.net, tarpley.net. And if you want to see these recent documents for intervention at the town hall meetings, go to actindependent.org. There you find the call for left anti-war opposition and the intervention paper for town hall meetings. And with that, we will see you next week.